and there's yours. You can tell
Man.
that there's your kit. Why your kit is set in that way, but
Yes.
but it has its own personality that it's been developing through the years I've been listening you, watching you, and now that I got the opportunity to see you live. Why do you have that kit? Why your drums are like that? Because in a first watch, it seems uncomfortable.
That's a great question. Yeah, so to make a long story short, it's just for me to have an identity. And I remember, when I got exposed to like the modern drumming magazines and other magazines, when you look at the cover, they would showcase the drummer's drum kit, and that was their identity. So I was like, man, I got to get my own thing. And I remember when I started becoming like the next hip hop upper echelon drummer, outside of Questlove, because there's other drummers out there too. That's that's on the level. But I remember when I started playing hip hop and seeing him in this position, being the first guy to play in the hip hop setting, and his drum kit, he just had a couple pieces. He just had the snare and the floor tom. And one of the biggest things in the hip hop community is having an identity. And like, if outside of drumming back in the days, if you sounded like somebody or if you looked like them, you had problems. Like you always almost in a fight. People they took their organic and they look serious. And I understand. So I remember, when I started playing hip hop, I realized that I didn't need all of those extra drums, when, that I played in a fusion setting. So I downsized my kit, similar to how Questlove kit with just a snare floor tom. And I was like, oh man, how could I take this and change it just so my kit don't look like Questlove, because I didn't want any problems if we ever were in the same room. And I played traditional grip, which is the jazzier grip, the grip where you play where the stick is sideways. And if you look at the old school jazz drummers like Gene Krupa, Buddy Rich, and Philly Joe Jones, they all played with the drums tilted. Maybe not like mine, but they had the snare drum tilted sideways to match the drumstick. And I was like, man, what could I do to switch it up? And so I turned the snare where it looks like a hill and it's going frontwards. So, and then one day when I woke up, I was like, man, what would happen if I do the floor time? So really the original ideals for my drum kit was just for me to have an identity. And it wasn't no type of, it made me play better or anything. I had to figure out how to play it. And people could say gimmick or whatever it is. It was just me finding my identity, whatever you want to call it. I had to figure out how to do it. And Michael Jackson, he wore gloves. He wore the glitter jacket. That's the identity that he wanted to have. Prince wore the stiletto. So me as a drummer, I'm just trying to find an identity. So when people see, when they see the drum kit, they can associate that with me. So, and then eventually I had to learn how to play it. I sit really high. And then when I started working with Jack, we had to learn all of the various catalogs, the Dead Weather and White Stripes. Some of those records, they had a marching snare drum. They had other sounds that Jack wanted. And I was like, well, I need more drums. So I kept the integrity of the angles, but I just added and put the drums in different places. And then my last configuration for the tour, the Supply Chain Issues tour, basically it's like when you get a job, you get all the tools you need to get the job done. So we had to learn almost 100 songs, and the Jack's latest project that he put out, the first time that he used samples, for a record. So that required that I needed to get sample pads, more than one. So I just wanted to make sure I had all the tools that I needed to play the music in case we played some songs from the new project or from the Raconteurs or the other solo. I just wanted to make sure I had everything. And then by me seeing rock drummers always had a big drum kit. So I want to shout out Bazio, Bonham, Mitch Mitchell. All those guys were definitely influential. Stuart Copeland, all those guys are influential to me. May have been like a little thing that I may have saw that they did, and I try to add added to what I do, but they were all influential. And I remember rock drummers always having big kits. So I said this time around on this tour, I want to have me a big rock kit. You know what I'm saying? So what gave me my identity was the placement. You know, I don't like doing things, as you can tell, you know, like your average person would do. So that's what they did. That's what the rock guys did. They would have like 2 or 3 kick drum pedals. They would have a lot of cymbals. They would have roto toms. They would have a whole kitchen sink. So I'm just following suit. I'm just following what I saw, and then bringing my own style, you know, my own vibe to give me an identity. Ain't nothing different. So I shout out Mike Portnoy and all those guys, and I'm grateful that they welcomed me to the community, because those, like you guys, y'all been doing rock forever. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just a little over 10 years in the game, but I'm grateful for the people that's really been doing it to welcome me and embrace me. You know, it's humbling. It's humbling. Yeah, to make a long story short, it was to have an identity.
And it just is. It looks different. It sounds different. It sounds the kick and the snare kick is just goes through the heart, not in the heart, through the heart. When I was at that show, it was yeah, that drums. It's kicking and.